Welcome. It is Verdict with Senator Ted Cruz, Ben Ferguson with you, and many of you that are listening on the radio, welcome. It's really nice to have you with us as well. And if you're listening to the show for the first time, don't forget we do this show as a podcast as well. So grab Verdict with Ted Cruz wherever you get your podcast. Senator, we've got a lot to talk about on today's show. There's a lot happening in the U.S. and also around the world.
Well, I got to say, today's podcast, like the classic TV show Sesame Street, is brought to you by the letter H. H for hypocrisy. We're going to talk about hypocrisy, and we're going to tie four bits of hypocrisy together. We're going to start with New York Governor Kathy Hochul and the utter hypocrisy of everyone she chased out of the state. She is now desperately begging for them to come back. We're going to start with her. We're then going to go to the far left loon who's been nominated to run for Senate in the state of Texas, James Talarico. We're going to introduce you to some weird stuff this guy believes.
You guys are going to have a barbecue contest, I heard. I'm excited about this.
Indeed we are. And then we're going to get to Joe Kent. Joe Kent, who just ostentatiously resigned from working for President Trump. We're going to talk about Joe Kent, and we're going to introduce him to someone who has very different views from him, named Joe Kent. And then finally, we're going to talk about Cesar Chavez, the hero to the left. He was held up as an icon, except for one minor detail, that he was allegedly a child rapist. Those are the left-wing hypocrites that we're going to break down and give you the facts and what's happening with all four today.
Yeah, and somebody ate their Wheaties this morning, by the way, so this is going to be a really fun show. Hey, if you are like me and you're sick and tired of giving your money to woke leftist companies that fight against your values, then there's one bill you've got every month that you need to switch to Patriot Mobile. America is entering the 250th year, and the direction of this country is being decided right now in our culture and our economy. And who we choose to support matters more than ever. Most wireless companies don't care who you are or what you believe. They just want your money. Patriot Mobile, they're different. For more than 12 years, they've stood with Americans who believe freedom is worth defending, funding the Christian conservative movement when others stay silent. That's what they do. So here's the deal. You don't have to give up quality or service when you switch to Patriot Mobile. They deliver premium priority access on all three major U.S. networks. So you'll get the same or better coverage than you have today. Think switching is a hassle? It isn't anymore in 2026. You keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. And their 100% U.S.-based support team can activate you in minutes. Still paying off a device? Patriot Mobile even offers a contract buyout. This is a defining year. We must work together to save our country. Go to patriotmobile.com/Ferguson or call 972-PATRIOT. Use the promo code Ferguson for a free month of service. I use Patriot Mobile and you can too. patriotmobile.com/Ferguson or 972-PATRIOT. Switch today. All right, Senator, so let's start with your favorite Sesame Street letter H today. And the governor of New York, she starts with an H there. I got to give her a little credit. I think you're going to be too mean. I appreciate when a leader admits they're wrong. I had a bet in my head of which leader was going to basically blink first. Her begging people to come back or Gavin Newsom in California. She's clearly a better leader. She's admitting defeat much earlier on than Gavin Newsom is. So I got to give her some props for that.
Yeah, but let's go in a time machine. Let's go in a time machine back to 2022. In 2022, Kathy Hochul said, if you're a conservative, if you're a job producer, if you actually add value, if you are not currently on welfare and not suckling on the teat of government, then get the hell out of New York. And by the way, maybe you don't believe it when I say that. Give a listen to what she said as she was ordering job producers and conservatives to get out of New York. This is 2022. Give a listen.
And we're here to say that the era of Trump and Zeldin and Molinaro, just jump on a bus and head down to Florida where you belong, okay? Get out of town. Get out of town. Because you don't represent our values. You are not New Yorkers.
Now, Senator, to be clear, I'm totally fine with governors telling people to get the hell out if they're like illegal immigrants or terrorists or rapists or murderers out of their state and leave and never come back. But this is a little creepy from the governor of New York at the time.
Yeah, no, she was telling every Republican in the state, leave because you're not a New Yorker. And you know what? An awful lot of people took her up on it. I have said before. So I have named, long ago, I named Gavin Newsom the Texas Realtor of the Year. And I've also named Comrade Mondami the Florida Realtor of the Year. And by the way, Kathy Hochul was Mondami before Mondami was cool. She was saying, get the hell
ambassador.
out.
She's
And
like
you
the
know
ambassador for Florida, right?
Hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers said, I agree. You people are nuts. You're bat crap crazy, and I am out of here. And then suddenly, this year, Kathy Hochul has noticed she has a problem. And again, don't let me put words in her mouth. Give a listen to what her problem is.
And being conscious of the facts that I need people who are high net worth to support the generous social programs that we want to have in our state. Right? Now, there are some patriotic millionaires who stepped up. Okay, cut me the checks. I mean, just if you want to be supportive, but maybe the first step should be go down to Palm Beach and see who you can bring back home, because our tax base has been eroded. So I philosophically don't have a problem. It is like I have to look at the fact that we are in competition with other states who have less of a tax burden on their corporations and their individuals. And I would say remote work changed everything. There were people who could only work in an office in Manhattan or work in New York State, and they were captives to our state. They were going to stay. We saw that that's not the case. I mean, Wall Street businesses looking at Texas, they're not going there because they have a nicer governor. I know that for sure. But they're going there because of the tax rate. We have to be smart about this. But we can fund what we want to fund with what we already are taking in.
So here's the part that's so interesting about this. I love that she, and what do you put this under? Is this communism or socialism or like a morph of the two? Because she's saying, I do want you to make a lot of money so that then I can take that money from you and then give it to the social services, AKA the poor. I'm like, what? Like, this is a new hybrid. Like, I want rich people, but then I want to steal everything you make.
Look, this is whiny leftism. This is hypocrisy. And let me start off by saying, yes, we actually do have a nicer governor. I know Greg Abbott very well. He is a great friend. He is a terrific leader. And that actually matters. Not having arrogant leaders who view their constituents as serfs, as subjects to be ruled. The left views them, if you don't agree, get the hell out, which is what she told them. Look, I represent 32 million Texans. I represent Democrats. I represent independents. Whether you voted for me or not, it's my job to represent you, to fight for your jobs, to fight for your freedom, to fight for your security. And the left doesn't view it that way. You are subjects and they will rule you. But her whole pitch is she says, we need wealthy people so that we can pay for the generous social programs that I want. In other words, her pitch is, please come back to New York so I can take your money. And I want to give away your money. I'm much better at giving away your money than you are. So please come back so I can rob you. And I got to say, I did tweet out the gift from Dodgeball of, interesting strategy there, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for her. I'm not sure anyone is going to take that invitation. Welcome to Manhattan. Give me your money.
So, Senator, there's something very interesting that keeps brewing, and it's a theme in Texas. That theme now is Democrats keep trying to find radical liberals that they masquerade into some sort of like moderate to then run for the Senate. But if you just go back and look at their own words, they're moonbats. Yeah,
look, so the Democrats in Texas have nominated for the U.S. Senate this guy named James Talarico, who was a state representative. He'd only been in the legislature a couple of years. He had not achieved much of anything. And why did they pick some young state rep to be their Senate nominee? Well, turned out the guy went to seminary. And they're like, oh, look, this is great. Now, look, today's modern Democrat Party, they hate people of faith unless you happen to be an Islamist and you're trying to kill people. They like them. But other than Islamists that are trying to murder people, anyone of faith they can't stand. And they especially can't stand Christians.
Yes.
But I think the Democrats are frustrated that they keep losing in Texas. They keep getting their butt kicked. And so they're like, all right, we need to find someone. And they're like, oh, this guy went to seminary. He speaks Christian. This is their theory of the case. Like he can talk to those strange people who believe in that Jesus guy. That's how Democrats.
He's read that Bible thing before, right?
Strategists are thinking, and the only problem is like this guy is weird. Yeah. And again, don't take my word for it. I'm just going to introduce you to James Talarico. First of all right, let's listen to this preacher talk about God. What does he have to say about God? Well, give a listen.
The first two lines of the Bible, the first two lines in Genesis, use two different Hebrew words to describe God. One is the masculine Hebrew noun for divinity. The second is the feminine Hebrew noun for spirit. God is both masculine and feminine and everything in between. God is non-binary. In Genesis 1:26, God speaks of God's self in the plural, saying, "Let us make human beings in our image to be like us." That's the infinite multitude of God. The masculine, the feminine, and everything in between. Trans children are God's children, made in God's own image.
Now, Senator, I've heard of stretches before using the Bible, but when you're like, let me just take you to the very beginning, and here's how I'm going to morph that into like this, like that's a whole new level. And even the room, the people around him are kind of like looking like, is he really doing this? It's a great video.
Look, God ain't non-binary, and yes, God is plural because you've got the Trinity of God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, three in one. But that does not mean that he says, well, God created male, female, and everything in between. No, He created Adam, He created Eve, and He stopped. Yeah, He didn't create a third creature that was neither male nor female. He created both. Okay, so you might say, all right, that's fine, but maybe that's just sort of a curious theological quirk. Well, he had more to say about people who are transgender, and it might kind of surprise you. Listen to what he had to say about the trans community.
Before we go further, I want to acknowledge that our trans community needs abortion care too. Defending trans Texans is something we have to do every day.
Now that one, if you're not watching this on YouTube, I just want to set the stage, Senator. There is literally communion table behind him.
Yep.
2 candles that are lit. And he's like, now let me just tell you, the trans community, they need abortion care too. Like, I'm just curious, like where in the scripture is that in there? Like, I'm waiting, this guy that went to ministry, I just want to know where he found that.
The guy says that in a church. And I guess is pretending to be a preacher, but you understand this is his priority: abortions for people who are transgender. Like that. I'm sorry, that is just out there. Yeah. And this is the pressing priority. But look, I got to admit, the reason he's saying all of this is that he's got to apologize for his own overwhelming masculinity. And again, don't take my word for it. Give a listen to him explaining.
No need to sit and cry over, your whiteness or your masculinity.
Right.
Use it.
Yep.
Use it to do something.
Yeah.
Let's be productive.
I mean, amen, pastor, on that one, right? Like, that is just preach, sign me up. Where can I go to get more of that?
Okay, I got to say, for those of y'all who are not watching on YouTube, you really should watch on YouTube. Because no need to cry over your masculinity. Yeah. Said no person who had even a shred of masculinity. I mean, this is a guy who makes Pete Buttigieg look manly.
You're not lying, by the way.
This is a guy, if like a soy latte could speak, that would be Democrat James Talarico.
That is my new official analogy that you've ever said on this show. That is number one now.
And by the way, okay, so he's not very masculine. He's crying about his masculinity, what little of it he has. But at least he's an American, right? I mean, he's at least proud of America. Well, not so much. Give a listen to what he has to say about that.
I often think when reclaiming symbols, I think about the American flag. I think the Confederate flag is a symbol of treason and terrorism, but the American flag is such a complicated symbol for most of us, and in many ways, like Jesus, like the cross, it's been co-opted, and in some ways, its true meaning has been betrayed.
By the way, I didn't know that we had co-opted Jesus so much. Like that's breaking news there, Senator.
So look, this is a supposed pastor who is embarrassed about Jesus, embarrassed about the cross, and now embarrassed about the American flag. But okay, look, you set everything else aside. It's Texas. At least he stands with barbecue, right?
Yes, that's true.
No,
that's important.
No, it's not. Give a listen to what he has to say on meat.
We have, I think, heard more and more issues of animal welfare. I think not just because it's the right thing to do and the moral thing to do, but also it's, as all of you know, necessary to fight climate change. It is now existential that we try to reduce our meat consumption and that we try to respect animals in all aspects of society. And so I am proud to say that our campaign has officially become a non-meat campaign. So we are only buying vegan products from our local vegan businesses.
The guy hates barbecue.
Yeah.
Perfect for Texas. They've found their candidate. The Democrats understand Texans.
I want you to pause what you're doing for just 1 minute. Love, generosity, and compassion. We say those words all the time, and they sound good. They feel good. But here's the truth. Those words don't mean anything unless they turn into action. And right now, not later today, not tomorrow, there's a child in the world who doesn't know if they'll eat, if they'll have a chance to learn, or if there's any hope at all. And while we're all busy, life keeps moving forward, but that child is waiting. This is where you come in. With Compassion International, you have the chance to change a child's future. Not just with words, not with promises, but with real help that provides food, education, and hope through local churches and people already in their community. Put your words into action and join me. Introduce a child to a loving Heavenly Father today at compassion.com. That's compassion.com. Senator, there was a story this week, and of course, Washington just erupted with this story. The media it was blood in the water, and this is going to be the undoing of the Trump administration because a B-team guy in the administration contradicted himself in his own beliefs and then resigned and ran straight to Tucker Carlson to whine and complain. And that was supposed to be like the end of the world. I kind of laugh at this story with a guy named Joe Kent that you got to Google just to remind yourself exactly who he was.
Yeah, so look, Joe Kent, I don't know him. He was a failed candidate for Congress. He ran for Congress and lost, and he got himself appointed to be in the DNI office, in the Director of National Intelligence office. And this week, he loudly resigned from the Trump administration. And as you noted, the media was thrilled because he was resigning to attack President Trump. And there's nothing that the media likes better than a Republican attacking Donald Trump. And so Joe Kent tweeted out, after much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position as director of the National Counterterrorism Center, effective today. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. It has been an honor serving under POTUS and Tulsi Gabbard and leading the professionals at NCTC. May God bless America. All right, so you hear that, and you think, okay, the guy's an isolationist, and he hates Israel.
Yeah.
Where is he going to go? To the surprise of nobody, the next day he was on Tucker Carlson. Like, it's literally, you hate Israel?
24 hours.
Yeah. You hate Israel and you're cheering for Iran. Well, okay, Tucker is that's what the show is there for. Now, you might think, okay, this guy just disagrees with Trump's foreign policy. Maybe he shouldn't have been appointed in the first place. If he really disagreed with Trump's foreign policy, he should leave. Now, the interesting thing is he didn't always disagree with Trump's foreign policy. So January 2020, what did Joe Kent post? He posted the following, quote, Trump's, quote, red line is American loss of life and IR nuke development. I personally think we should have crushed their ballistic and nuke capability. But Trump has a plan. He has definitely earned the confidence of any clear-eyed observer. So that was 2020.
Yeah.
He wanted to crush their ballistic and nuclear capability. What are we doing right now, by the way, Ben?
Yeah, we're blessed. We're doing exactly that. We are literally doing exactly what he advocated for.
Yep, we are crushing their ballistic and nuke capability. How about September 2024? What did he say during the last election season? He said, quote, Trump used a balance of diplomacy, economic pressure, and targeted strikes to contain Iran. The embodiment of peace through strength. So what is Trump doing now? The exact same thing. All right.
Yeah.
How about October 2024? Quote, October 7th happened because Biden-Harris gave Iran access to over $100 billion. Trump used diplomacy to build the Abraham Accords, cut off Iran's funding, and killed key terrorists. America and our allies were safe, and there was less war. No more neocons, no appeasement. Trump 24. So, apparently, from 20. Oh, and by the way, what else did he say in 2020? Here's another tweet of his. We should not sit and wait for the next attack. And this is addressed to real Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Wipe Iran's ballistic capability out and get our troops out of Iraq. They are only targets now. That is what he said in 2020, what he said in 2022, what he said in 2024. He agreed with everything Trump is doing until he got in office and suddenly decided Iran is no longer a threat. Apparently, Iran became less of a threat as they killed more Americans. And
by the way, my initial reaction to this was, okay, you're a guy that's on the B team. I don't mean that as a slight at all. I want to be clear. You need a lot of really good people in an administration. Not everybody's in the room when you're going after Osama bin Laden. There's a ton of great people that are on the B team. But it's almost like
and by all accounts, he was kept out. Because he didn't have the confidence. He didn't have the confidence of the commander-in-chief. And by the way, given how he has petulantly quit and run on Tucker Carlson to attack President Trump, you can understand why he didn't have the confidence of the commander-in-chief. Like, this is illustrating who he is. And I want you to listen. So we went on Tucker, and he comes up with this bizarre theory that Israel is threatening Donald Trump. Give a listen.
What kind of pressure does it require to get a president who campaigned against exactly this thing for 10 years to do exactly this thing? What does it take to do that?
I wish I knew definitively. I think there's two potentials, there's two schools of thought. I mean, one is the media echo chamber, the donors, the way the Israelis come in and kind of launder the information like I described previously. And then the other option is much darker. I mean, we still don't know what happened in Butler. We don't know what happened with Charlie Kirk. And by no means am I saying, like, the Israelis did this or any of that, but I'm saying there's a lot of unanswered questions there. And there is enough data to at least say that there's a good chance that President Trump feels like he is under threat.
Wow. Like, that's the best way I can put it, Senator. Wow.
Look, that's just unhinged. And let's start. So Tucker, as he often does, starts with a premise that is just false, that is a lie. He says Trump spent 10 years campaigning against this, and then suddenly he did this. Well, no, Tucker, he didn't. Trump has said over and over and over again, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. He repeatedly called out Iran. It's Tucker who has opposed Trump. I get Tucker does not agree with Donald Trump's foreign policy because Donald Trump is, and by the way, when I went on Tucker's show, Tucker insisted, no, Iran has never tried to kill Trump, which is again a total falsehood. And bizarrely enough, do you remember what Tucker said he would do if Iran had tried to kill Trump?
If I remember correctly, didn't he say he would go after them? He would nuke them? I think it was nuke them, right?
He said, we should nuke them. Like with his weird laugh. And by the way, I said, no, we should not nuke them. That's actually an unhinged view.
That would be crazy.
And you know what? Shortly thereafter, Tucker had on his show the president of Iran. You know what he didn't ask him?
About any of that?
Why are you guys trying to kill President Trump? And by the way, like, the assassins have been criminally convicted. Like there is no dispute.
Why are you hiring people to actually follow through on killing American leaders, including the president? That would be a great question if you weren't compromised.
And listen, Joe Kent and Tucker together. So Joe is saying the, quote, darker theory is that Trump is under threat from Israel. Mind you, that's what he's saying. And he also suggests, well, and Charlie Kirk was too. And then he says, now, I'm not saying the Israelis killed Charlie Kirk, but there are questions. Let me say, anyone who believes Israel killed Charlie Kirk, you've lost your mind. That is a moonbat theory. And by the way, he is talking with a fellow moonbat who is open to those kinds of theories. And interestingly enough, it appears that may not be the first time they're talking. So Notice reported the following, quote, a law enforcement source said FBI agents had determined that Kent shared secret government information with disaffected MAGA media figures like Tucker Carlson. A second administration official said that Kent leaked classified information from a server to a member of the media. Now,
by the way, I want to be clear about the timestamp on this because this is important. There's many in the media, and I called them out in the last couple of days when I was debating this on TV. I'm like, I want everybody listening to Verdict to understand this was not an investigation that started after he resigned. This is apparently an investigation that had started well before he resigned, which may have actually been the reason why he said, I got to get out now and try to tell my story.
Yeah, look, I don't know if it's true. I don't know if he's being investigated for leaking classified information. The media is reporting it. And I don't know the facts. I don't know if he did it. But I got to say that there is some irony that at least they're saying he was leaking to Tucker Carlson. And Tucker Carlson has been waging a war on President Trump's foreign policy and apparently a war with allies in the administration. Listen, if Joe Kent disagreed with the president's foreign policy, he could have just submitted his resignation. But instead, he wanted to go in a blaze of glory and just attack Trump. And I got to say, that's who Tucker is. That's who the isolationist loons are. And I think it is a foreign policy that does not protect America from our enemy.
All right, finally, Senator, let's wrap with a story that another hero of the left, it looks like it was a crazy person that is now going to go down in history in disgrace. This time it's a guy by the last name of Chavez.
So this is our hypocrisy, not just trifecta, but four of a kind. So we started with Kathy Hochul, the hypocritical Democrat governor of New York. We then went to James Talarico, the very, very strange Democrat nominee for the Senate. We then went to Joe Kent, the previous Trump supporter who has decided now that Trump is under an assassination threat from Israel. And finally, Cesar Chavez. Who is Cesar Chavez? He is a hero to the Democrats, a hero to the left, an icon. He was a union organizer for the United Farm Workers, and he is revered, except for the fact that famed right-wing publication, the New York Times, just published an expose that for years he was raping little girls. Yeah. And they come with the receipts that he had raped little girls year after year after year, and the left had covered it up. They'd covered it up because they agreed with his politics. And I got to say that there's a really good opinion piece that the Daily Wire ran by a woman named Ariana Guajardo, who's a Texan and a Latina. And here's what she wrote. I want to read a good chunk of it because it actually is a good insight. It's entitled, "The Left Hid Cesar Chavez's Rapes and Turned Him into a Saint." She begins, "When I was in college, I passed the Cesar Chavez statue every day on my walk to class at the University of Texas. Now Cesar Chavez is the name of the road I take to work, and it's a big road right in downtown Austin. For years, Chavez was presented as the figurehead for Mexican Americans, a symbol we were expected to revere. But he represented a collectivist ideology that perpetuated ethnic tribalism. after the New York Times broke the story of his sexual abuse of young girls. This false idol is finally toppling. My only hope is that he is not replaced by another. Chavez has long been celebrated as a symbol of the civil rights era and as a champion of labor unions in America. He co-founded the United Farm Workers Union to fight for better conditions for migrant laborers. But in truth, he exploited the very people he claimed to protect, while tying Mexican Americans to socialist ideology, which is, of course, what the Democrats want. He carefully crafted a public image as a family man devoted to Catholic social teaching, but the reality was much darker. Chavez's philosophy echoes Marxist rhetoric about the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. At a UFW convention in 1981, Chavez proclaimed, "I would not take one cup of coffee from a grower," and he means a farmer. "There's not a good one. I hate them. A few presents, a little talk, then the noose. That's how capitalism works." This is the hero of the left. It isn't just his rhetoric that sounds alarm bells. Early in his career, he worked with Saul Alinsky, the community organizer who defined the modern leftist playbook in Rules for Radicals. Chavez and the UFW later implemented Alinsky's tactics, fostering confrontational, divisive organizing. Then there is the recent revelation of his extensive sexual abuse of minors. The behavior is not distinct from other far-left figures, such as Joseph Stalin, to Mao, to Kim Jong-il. Communist and socialist leaders often share a troubling connection to sexual predation. We should not be surprised that evil ideology attracts evil people. By the way, that's a sentence worth remembering. Yeah. We should not be surprised that evil ideology attracts evil people. If the warning signs around Chavez have existed for decades, why did he become the face of an entire ethnicity in America? Partly because he was effective at mobilizing Mexican Americans in California, using rhetoric that created a lasting us versus them mentality.
Yep.
But how did that ideology extend to Texas? Chavez never belonged to the Tejano heritage the same way he does in Chicano culture. The Chicano culture and movement are a direct outgrowth of the California Hispanic labor movement in the 60s and 70s. On the other hand, the Tejano culture traces back to the Mexican settlers of Texas prior to Texas independence and is a component of what created the Texas identity. That history is also tied to farming and a cowboy ethos that is incompatible with Chavez's ideology. Texas agriculture thrived because of ranchers like my ancestors who embraced a free market approach, not because of unions or collectivist movements. Before the New York Times expose, one could argue that Chavez fought for Mexican Americans and deserved gratitude. Yet his legacy has encouraged a troubling mindset. To be loyal to one's Hispanic heritage, one must embrace left-wing ideology. On campus, I was often labeled a, quote, race traitor at conservative events, accused of, quote, wanting white approval, or dismissed as, quote, too white passing to comment on border and immigration issues. By the way, Jorge Ramos on Spanish television accused me of being a traitor to my race, so I'm quite familiar with that. The type of tribalism promoted by Chavez is just like any other kind of identity politics, limiting and stereotyping the people it is intended to empower. In the political climate in which Texas Hispanics are considering Republicans on the ballot, it is clear why the left is feeling threatened. So why is a street in Austin named after Cesar Chavez? Why did his statue watch me as I walked to class? The answer is clear. Ethnic tokenism. It was fitting for Bill Clinton to award him a Presidential Medal of Freedom. By the way, Bill Clinton, speaking of sexual predators, there may have been a reason there. And for Joe Biden to display his bust in the Oval Office. Joe Biden literally put up a bust of Cesar Chavez, who was a child rapist, in the Oval Office. Chavez represents the Hispanic worker the political left wishes we all were. Obedient to a union boss and beholden to collectivist ideology. The UFW announced it will not be celebrating Cesar Chavez Day this year amid the allegations. The idol all Hispanics were once expected to adore is finally falling from his pedestal. My hope is that we do not replace him with another. Look, I think that is exceptionally well written.
Well done, and I have to give a little credit to the New York Times for actually publishing it.
Yes, agreed.
I'm shocked. I really am.
Now, to be clear, Chavez is not a current leftist leader. If he was a current leader of the Democrat Party, I don't think they would have published it. But given that he's dead and buried,
it's after
I think
the fact, right?
It was after the fact. And look, what is sad is that so many Democrats, so many leftists knew that he was a child rapist, and they kept their mouths shut because ideology mattered more than truth or protecting kids.
Yeah, great point. Don't forget, we do the show 3 days a week as a podcast. So if you're listening on the radio, make sure you hit that subscribe or auto-download button. You can also watch this show on video as well on YouTube or on Facebook, so make sure you follow us there. And the Senator and I will see you back here on this radio station next week and all week long on the Verdict Podcast as well. See you then.